In a startling declaration, President Trump announced he does not require congressional authorization for ongoing military action in Iran, citing a ceasefire. This decision could reshape U.S. military policy and has sparked intense debate in Congress. Here's a detailed breakdown of what's unfolding. On May 1st, 2026, President Donald Trump stated he does not need congressional authorization for military operations in Iran, claiming the ongoing ceasefire eliminates the requirement. This announcement was made during a press briefing at the White House, where Trump asserted that previous presidents had bypassed Congress on similar grounds. He referenced the War Powers Act, which mandates that the president seek approval for military action after 60 days. However, Trump maintains that the current ceasefire, established earlier in the conflict, renders this requirement moot. The U.S. military has been actively engaged in operations against Iranian forces since February 28, 2026, marking nearly 60 days of conflict. The administration had formally notified Congress on March 2nd, starting the 60-day clock, which has now reached its limit. Trump's assertion comes amid rising tensions in Congress, where several lawmakers express concern over the lack of formal authorization for the military engagement. The most shocking aspect of Trump's statement is his claim that Congress does not need to weigh in on what he describes as a non-war situation, despite the ongoing military operations. This declaration raises significant constitutional questions regarding the separation of powers. Previous administrations have generally sought congressional approval under the War Powers Act after similar timelines, indicating a respect for legislative oversight in military matters. The potential consequences of Trump's approach could redefine the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches, allowing future presidents to engage in military actions with little to no congressional input. Lawmakers, particularly from the Democratic Party, have voiced strong opposition to Trump's stance, arguing that it undermines democratic accountability. This could lead to a broader debate about military engagement and the role of Congress in authorizing military actions. As the political landscape continues to evolve, the implications of this decision could alter the way U.S. state military engagements are authorized and conducted in the future. Looking ahead, Congress may be forced to confront this issue directly, potentially leading to new legislation aimed at clarifying the War Powers Act and reinforcing its authority over military actions. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining how this unprecedented situation unfolds. The ramifications of Trump's announcement regarding military action are profound and far-reaching. By asserting that he can act without congressional approval, the president is challenging the constitutional balance of power between the executive and legislative branches. This unprecedented move raises immediate questions about accountability and oversight in military operations, leaving lawmakers concerned about the potential for unchecked military action. Many members of Congress are already expressing outrage, fearing that this could set a dangerous precedent that undermines democratic processes. Currently, approximately 100,000 U.S. troops are stationed in the Middle East, a presence that has become increasingly contentious amid rising tensions in the region. This military footprint has been a source of debate for years, with critics arguing that it exacerbates conflicts rather than resolves them. The ongoing conflicts have already cost taxpayers an estimated $25 billion, a significant financial burden, especially in light of pressing domestic needs such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. The economic implications are particularly critical as the nation grapples with inflationary pressures and a recovering economy. The humanitarian impact in Iran and the broader Middle East cannot be overlooked either. Civilian casualties and infrastructure damage have raised alarms among international human rights organizations, which report increasing unrest and instability. The long-term effects of military action extend beyond immediate combat, often leading to displacement, poverty, and suffering among civilian populations. For the average American, this situation matters because it could directly influence U.S. foreign policy, military spending, and the potential for escalation into a larger conflict, drawing the nation deeper into international crises. If military actions continue without legislative checks, there could be far-reaching implications for global peace and security, potentially destabilizing entire regions. This could engender a cycle of violence that further complicates diplomatic relations and undermines U.S. credibility on the world stage. As citizens, it is crucial to understand how these decisions affect not only military personnel, but also the lives of countless individuals in conflict zones. Looking ahead, Congress must assert its authority and engage in meaningful dialogue to ensure that any military action is justified and aligned with national interests, ultimately fostering a more responsible and accountable approach to U.S. foreign policy. The escalation of U.S.-Iran tensions has been a gradual process rooted in decades of complex history. Following the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020, relations between the two nations soured significantly. Soleimani, a key figure in Iran's military strategy, was seen as a major architect of Iranian influence throughout the Middle East. His death marked a pivotal moment, prompting Iran to retaliate with missile strikes against U.S. bases in Iraq. In the aftermath, the U.S. implemented stringent sanctions that crippled Iran's economy, leading to rampant inflation and widespread discontent among its population. This economic instability fueled heightened military posturing on both sides, with Iran increasing its support for proxy groups in the region, including Hezbollah and militias in Iraq. The situation further deteriorated in late 2025, when proxy conflicts intensified across the Middle East, particularly in Iraq and Syria. The Trump administration, facing mounting criticism for its handling of foreign policy, opted for a military solution in early 2026. Despite initial claims of avoiding war, military strikes began on February 28, 2026. The conflict was initially framed as a response to Iranian aggression, but as the days turned into weeks, the narrative shifted to one of sustained military engagement, raising concerns about an extended conflict. The failure of diplomatic efforts and the absence of a cohesive strategy have left many questioning the long-term goals of U.S. intervention. Historically, similar situations have been resolved through negotiations, yet the current climate suggests a departure from this approach. The motivations driving U.S. involvement include securing strategic interests in the region and countering perceived threats from Iran. Looking ahead, the continuing volatility in U.S.-Iran relations could prompt a reevaluation of American foreign policy, particularly as new leadership emerges and the geopolitical landscape evolves, especially concerning energy security and regional stability. The future of U.S.-Iran relations hangs in a delicate balance following recent military escalations. Tensions have surged amid a series of confrontations, with both nations adopting increasingly aggressive postures. One immediate possibility is an escalation of military operations, which could lead to increased troop deployments in the region. Historical patterns suggest that such actions often spiral into broader conflicts, potentially drawing in regional allies like Saudi Arabia and adversaries such as Russia. This complexity underscores the precarious nature of U.S.-Iran dynamics. The backdrop to this situation includes a long history of conflict and mistrust, characterized by the 1979 Iranian Revolution and subsequent U.S. sanctions aimed at crippling Iran's economy. Iran has responded with proxy engagements throughout the Middle East, supporting groups in Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, which further complicates the geopolitical landscape. Amid this tension, Congress is likely to push back against the executive branch's military authority. Several lawmakers are advocating for legislation aimed at curbing the president's powers to engage militarily without congressional approval, emphasizing the need for oversight in matters of war. This could create a constitutional showdown, reshaping the dynamics of U.S. military engagement and potentially limiting future operations. Public opinion is increasingly vocal, with protests against military actions gaining traction across the country. Analysts suggest that citizen sentiment will heavily influence the administration's next moves, as political leaders weigh the risks of escalating conflict against the growing calls for peace. The critical question remains whether diplomatic channels can be revived effectively. As international actors seek to mediate a ceasefire, the potential for negotiations may emerge. In the coming weeks, the focus will intensify on how Congress and the White House will navigate these turbulent waters, with the prospect of renewed dialogue becoming increasingly vital for stability in the region. With so much at stake, how will the U.S. balance military action with the need for congressional oversight? Share your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for daily deep dives into breaking news.